joining us on the phone, fresh off of his win in the Celebration of America All That's Metal 300 up at Oxford Plains Speedway last Wednesday night. Driver of the number 73D, winner on 7-3. We are joined by Joey Doiron. Joey, welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
Not bad. How are you guys doing?
Good. So jump right into things before we talk a little bit about the win last Wednesday night. But for those who might not know who you are, how'd you catch the racing bug?
So I raced go-karts when I was a kid, and then took a couple of years off. And took a couple of years off, and then we ended up getting into a limited sportsman at Beach Ridge when I was 15. Raced that for a year, moved up to AT Cars with my family team, and then ran that for a year, and then went past racing and been racing super late models ever since. So
started fourth last week, and obviously you had a really, really good race. Of course, guys like Kyle Busch were out there, Daniel Hemrick as well. Talk to us a little bit. Take us through the week. I would say weekend, but take us through the Tuesday and into Wednesday of the race and what led up to it.
So I mean, going into the race last week, I felt like we were probably the favorites to win. We had dominated the pass race a couple weeks before up there, the first one, and then they had a doubleheader that day, and we were on our way to dominating the second one, and had a electrical issue, and ended up dropping out of the lead with like 50 to go. So I felt like we were kind of the favorites going in. The car that we raced at Oxford there last week has been really rolling this year. We've only raced it at Oxford and Lee, and our worst finish is second in races that we finished. So it's definitely been a good start to the year with that car. I knew going in that we would have a good piece, but 300 laps, a lot can happen. A lot of pit strategy, just how it worked out with us. We pitted twice for tires instead of once compared to some guys. So you're doubling your chances of getting caught up in a wreck coming back through the field. So I just had to be methodical, and luckily the second time we got tires, we had not very good pit stops this week, and we lost quite a bit of track position, but we had a good enough car that we were able to overcome it. But the second set, we got stuck behind Kyle Busch on the restart, and he was on tires too, and he was making plenty of holes for us to get through. So just basically followed him for a while, and then once we got clear of the guys that we weren't going to be racing with, we just got by him, and then it was just kind of pick them off one by one from there on out.
Talking about tires, I mean, I've run Oxford, so I know how abrasive that place is, but how important is it to take care of them tires for 300 laps?
It's one of those things where you like the longer races there, it's important to save your tires, but at the same time, track position is so important that you kind of got to make decent ground up when you have tires. Like when your car's good enough, you can't just ride around and think you're going to be able to pass these guys at the end. There's too many good cars, so it's kind of a balancing act. Luckily, they had it was a 12-tire race the other night, so there was quite a bit of different strategies. A lot of guys, you had the option to start the race on 4 new tires, or you could start the race on your 75-lap tires from the qualifying races, and that's what we opted to do. We had a good starting spot and knew that as long as we didn't, fall back too far and go down a lap there in the first 75, that we'd probably be sitting with the optimum strategy for the end of the race, because it was going to give us the option to pit twice, and we were able to put 4 on a lot later than the guys that started the race on good tires. We were able to go about 50 laps longer, I think, than they did. So it kind of just flipped. By then, there's not as many guys in the race, so you're not passing as many guys, and you got 50 lap fresher tires in them. So
Does sharing the racetrack with a guy like Kyle Busch help you with your racecraft at all, or vice versa? Do the guys who come and want to be a part of this event come to someone like you and ask for tips and tricks to get around this track even faster?
I don't know. I've raced with Kyle a bunch, so he's one of those guys where he's a very fair racer. He races you how you race him. If you take care of him on the track, he's going to make sure he takes care of you as far as putting his car in positions that it's not going to tear up your equipment. But if you put him in a bad spot, then he's not going to be afraid to return the favor. So that's really all you can ask for. I feel like I was pretty fortunate. I grew up racing when I was a lot younger with guys like Mike Rowe, when Mike was, I wouldn't say he was in his prime, but he was still super competitive, winning, 6 or 7 races a year. And guys like Johnny Clark and Ben Rowe and all them, I mean, those are the guys that, taught me more about racecraft than anything, as far as, where to position your car in traffic versus other people, and, how to complete passes without, moving the guy out of the way. But there was times, like I remember with Mike, that he puts his car in positions where you think he's knocked you out of the way and he hasn't even touched you. So stuff like that was, more helpful. But, I'm an open book. If anybody's got, first time at the track, I'll help them out. I mean, you're there to, if you help somebody out, might come back to help you in the race.
Joey, I mean, even though it's more local racing and not like national level, I hate to say that like that, but how important is it to have a good crew doing even what you're doing, just to get you in and out? I know your pit stops weren't great, but you still had a bunch of guys helping you.
Yeah, I have a real good group. I wasn't anything that the guys did. We just had a mechanical issue with one of our regulators on the pit stops, and it didn't matter how fast he was going to be changing tires. It was going to be a struggle with the regulator issue we had. So we'll get that fixed for the 250. But like last year, I pitted out of 6th, I think, and came out with the lead. So my guys that change tires, we don't get to do it very often, but when we get to do it, I feel like I have one of the best groups on pit road, as far as making sure I get out of there and gain track position and make sure everything's tight and we're not going to have an issue at the end of the race.
So you mentioned the 250 obviously coming up, which, of course, the Oxford 250 has been synonymous with that speedway for many years. This event is a relatively new event, and it's 50 laps more. Talk to us a little bit about some differences that may come into play, whether it be running on the 4th of July weekend with the 300-lapper and the Oxford 250.
Honestly, it's more not so much as the 50 laps longer of the races. It's more of the qualifying races being 75 laps and versus 20 laps at Oxford. So you didn't end up, like, you were only allowed 12 tires for the entire race weekend as far as race tires. You had practice tires, whatever you wanted, but for the 250, you can bolt tires on it every time you go out there, in every qualifying race until you make the race. So that aspect's a little different. And the 250 is pretty straightforward. It's, as far as strategy goes, there's not as much comers and goers. It's, a lot of guys either one stop it at around 180 and go to the end, or they pit at 80 to 100 for 2 tires, and they come back in at 180 or so with everybody else for 4. So I wouldn't say it's, it was a lot. The strategy, obviously, is a lot more refined. There's been so many more 250-lap races at Oxford, whereas what we did last week was the first. So nobody really knew what to expect going into it. I think if we ran that race again next week, there's going to be a lot more guys starting the race on the 75-lap tires like we did, because I think other than Eric Griffith, everybody else that was in the top 5 started on tires from the heat race. So going forward next year, I'm sure that this probably won't be as much strategy, but you never know. If you get a bunch of guys that start on the heat tires, and you get somebody that with new rubber, they're going to have a better chance of putting a bunch of guys a lap down. So it could go either way. But now it's been done once. I just feel like, it's a lot of times in racing, it's monkey see, monkey do.
Oxford Plains has seemed to have treated you well over the years. Do you have a favorite memory, a favorite win at being up in Maine?
Probably this race. I mean, I've been super close in the Oxford 250. We've finished in the top, every position in the top 5 but first, more than once. So it's the one that kind of eluded me. And hopefully, I mean, we've been on a killer run this year as far as money. Won $30,000 at Lee there, and on May, went to Claremont, won $5,000, and then, backed it up at 40 here at Oxford. So there's just one more box to check, and hopefully, in 6 weeks I can finally cross that one off, and then, I mean, I feel like that would pretty much, complete all the races that I need to win up here.
So obviously, besides the 250 coming up, what's your schedule look like for the rest of the summer here in 2024?
So we'll hit probably, I want to say 90% of the pass races the rest of the year. We're at White Mountains in New Hampshire this week on Sunday, and then I think we got a week off, and then we go to Conk at the end of the month.
Excellent.
And then I think we're going to Berlin, Michigan at the beginning of August, but that one's still up in the air, tentative. It's a midweek show, so everybody that helps me has got, Monday through Friday jobs, so it's going to be, if I can't do it with my guys I do it every week with, then not really interested in doing it. So we'll see if we can put enough of a crew together to go out there and do that race. That's one I've kind of been looking forward to. I feel like my equipment's the best it's ever been. I'm driving the best I've ever been driving, so now's the time to do those races.
Talk about the pass series. That to me, that's always like a very professional series, and you're a big part of it. So what's it like for the people who don't know about pass? How the series is.
I mean, it's definitely super competitive. The guys that race it every week are some of the best I feel like go anywhere in the country and win. I mean, some of the track, like we race a lot at Oxford, so we don't get out a lot outside of Oxford. But when we do, I feel like it puts on as good a racing as anybody can expect. I mean, the cars are expensive, so if anybody thinks that there's going to be 40 cars every week, I mean they're $100,000 race cars. So just nowadays, I don't feel like that's realistic. But I would put a 24 car pass field up against any field in the country, and you'll definitely see a heck of a race.
Anybody you want to thank? Sponsors on the car and crew, people that help you get to the track weekly?
I got to thank the car owner, Peter Pettit, and my parents. Couldn't do it without them. I couldn't have gotten to where I am without them. So my whole family, they give up a lot of time with me for me to go racing. So our sponsors, Form Sales, Waddell Communications, Air Performance, Tailstar Race Cars, and there's a bunch of guys that helped me behind the scenes. So definitely thanks to all those guys. We couldn't do it without them.
And, of course, probably one of the most important questions. People want to learn more about your career. You on the social media channels?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page under Joey Doiron Racing. And, it's my wife runs that, so it's she keeps it updated pretty good. So as far as, when we're going racing and stuff like that, so you can, head over there and check it out.
Joey Doiron joining us here on the show tonight on Miles on Motorsports. Appreciate it. Congratulations on the win in the Celebration of America All That's Metal 300 at Oxford Plains last week, and we will see you at Seekonk in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.